I end up following him on, I don't even remember what social media. See, my memory is so whack. Maybe it was Twitter, or at the time it was Twitter. I don't know. I don't remember. Instagram, maybe. I started following him, and then he DM'd me like, hey, thank you for this. He slid in my DMs. He's like, thanks for the support. Appreciate you. Send me your sizes so I can send you a personal box. Yeah. And then he gave me his number. And so then I text him because I was like, I don't do DMs.
Okay, but did you think it was really cute then?
I thought he was fine. Maybe but first of all, me following him was I was like, he took the bait.
Yeah.
No, yes, I always thought he was very attractive. I actually had like friends that knew him that were like, I think you guys would get along, years before that. But
Tanisha Foster has finally spoken out publicly after years of legal battle over Nipsey Hussle's estate. And her position on all of this is more complicated than any headline is going to tell you. Before anything else, let's clear up the biggest misconception that has been circulating since this story broke. Tanisha Foster did not sue to inherit Nipsey Hussle's money. She was never a beneficiary of his estate and had no legal claim to any portion of what he left behind. The legal dispute was never about Tanisha trying to take money that was not hers. It was about who would manage and control the inheritance designated for her daughter Imani, Nipsey's eldest child, until Imani was old enough to oversee it herself. That distinction matters enormously because the way this case got framed in clickbait headlines created an impression that was fundamentally inaccurate. Keep that in mind as we walk through everything that actually happened. Nipsey Hussle, Ermias Joseph Asghedom, was shot and killed on March 31, 2019, outside his Marathon clothing store on Slauson Avenue in the Crenshaw neighborhood of Los Angeles. He was 33 years old. He left behind 2 children. His eldest, Imani Asghedom, born in 2008 from his earlier relationship with Tanisha Foster, and his youngest, Cross Asghedom, born in 2016, whom he shared with actress Lauren London. Here is the legal reality that set everything in motion. Nipsey died without leaving behind a completed will. Under California probate law, that meant his estate had to go through a formal court process to determine how his assets would be distributed and who would manage the financial interests of his minor children. Both children were named the sole beneficiaries, a 50-50 split, but because both were minors, neither could legally control or manage those assets on their own. Someone else had to do it. And that question of who launched years of family conflict. The estate itself was significant. Court documents and estate filings valued it at approximately $11 million. That figure includes cash from music earnings, touring income, and business revenues. Business interests in the Marathon clothing store on Slauson, which continues to operate as both a business and a cultural landmark. Ownership over his master recordings, publishing interests, and music catalog, assets that continue generating royalties. Trademarks and intellectual property connected to his brand. And Black Sam, who managed the estate, projected in filings that it could generate an additional $4 to $5 million annually from ongoing business activities. This was not a static pile of money. It was a working portfolio of assets with long-term earning potential. In the immediate aftermath of Nipsey's murder, his brother Samuel Asghedom, publicly known as Black Sam, was appointed by the probate court as administrator of the estate. Sam had been deeply involved in Nipsey's business operations during his lifetime, running the Marathon clothing and managing various aspects of his entrepreneurial ventures. The court recognized that experience and gave him authority to oversee the estate on behalf of the children. Simultaneously, Nipsey's mother, Angelique Smith, his brother Sam, and his sister Samantha Smith were appointed as co-guardians of Imani's person, meaning physical and legal custody of the child. Now let's talk about Tanisha. In 2019, Tanisha entered into an agreement allowing Nipsey's family to take guardianship of Imani. In her own court filings, she acknowledged that this decision was driven largely by her financial situation at the time. She described Nipsey as having provided financial support, covering rent and other expenses, and said that after his death, that support disappeared. She wanted what was best for her daughter. She signed off on the arrangement, but a few years later, she came back to that agreement and fought to undo it. In 2021, Nipsey's family filed a petition to be appointed guardians not just of Imani's person, but of Imani's estate, meaning legal authority to manage and invest the financial inheritance Imani was set to receive. Their argument was that family oversight would allow them to invest her share prudently until she turned 18. Tanisha objected strongly. Her position was that she, as Imani's biological mother, should be the one with oversight over her daughter's financial affairs. In court filings, she alleged that Nipsey's family had not honored the promises she believed were made to her when she signed the 2019 agreement. Promises she said included financial support and maintained access to her daughter. She alleged that the family had used their collective financial power to limit her visitation and reduce her involvement in Imani's life. She also alleged favoritism toward Lauren London and argued that this attitude could compromise the family's ability to act fairly in Imani's interests. She wrote in those court documents something that landed with a lot of people who followed the case. She said Imani routinely asked when the two of them would be able to live together, that a daughter was longing to be with her mother, and she was pleading with the court to recognize that. The probate investigator assigned to evaluate the situation recommended against appointing Tanisha as guardian of Imani's estate. The recommendation cited concerns including reported issues with substance abuse and housing instability from 2019, as well as her employment situation at the time of the investigation. Tanisha's side disputed the framing of those concerns, but in October 2023, the judge ruled that Nipsey's mother, brother, and sister would serve as co-guardians over Imani's finances, including an inheritance estimated at over $2 million as Imani's share of the larger estate. It was a significant legal loss for Tanisha. She went into that process seeking control over her daughter's financial future and walked out with none of it. Then, in early 2025, things shifted again. In February 2025, Tanisha filed an emergency motion to terminate Imani's guardianship entirely. She also sought to depose Black Sam before the trial that had been scheduled for February 25th. The Los Angeles Superior Court denied the deposition request. The judge stated on the record that insufficient evidence had been provided to support it based on the filings and presented evidence. Tanisha was heading into the scheduled trial in a weakened legal position. Then the day before that trial, something unexpected happened. Tanisha and Sam appeared in court together, and the case took a completely different turn. The two sides had reached an agreement. A joint stipulation was filed on March 5, 2025, signed by Tanisha, Sam Asghedom, Samantha Asghedom, and Angelique Smith. Under the terms of the agreement, Nipsey's mother Angelique and his sister Samantha stepped down as co-guardians of Imani. Sam became the sole guardian, and Tanisha was granted joint physical and legal custody, meaning Imani would spend 60% of her time with her mother and the remaining time with her uncle. Both Tanisha and Sam were given equal decision-making rights when it came to Imani's best interests. The agreement explicitly stated that Tanisha reserves her parental rights with respect to her daughter. The trial was canceled. The years-long battle concluded through a negotiated settlement rather than a courtroom verdict. Regarding Lauren London, her role in all of this has been consistently overstated in coverage. As Cross's mother, Lauren was involved in the probate process to ensure her son's interests were protected. The proceedings related to Cross's inheritance involved significantly less public conflict, in large part because there were no competing guardianship disputes surrounding him. Lauren stayed out of the headlines while the Tanisha situation dominated coverage, and that is largely how it should be understood. What did Tanisha actually walk away with? She did not gain control over Imani's financial inheritance. Those funds remain managed through the estate structure overseen by Sam. What she did gain, and this is not a small thing, is legally documented parental standing, 60% of her daughter's time. Equal decision-making rights. Her role as Imani's mother formally recognized in a court agreement after years of fighting to have that recognized at all. Whether that feels like a victory or a loss depends on who you ask, but it is the honest picture of where things landed. Nipsey Hussle spent his entire adult life talking about generational wealth, about ownership, about building something his children could inherit and grow. He built the Marathon clothing from a pop-up into a cultural landmark. He independently owned his masters when most artists did not. He invested in the community that raised him because he understood that real legacy is built through what you leave behind. The one thing he did not leave behind was a completed will, and that single missing document set off years of courtroom conflict that consumed his family during what should have been a period of grief and healing. His children are going to be fine. The estate is protected. Imani and Cross are the beneficiaries of assets that continue generating value. But Nipsey's case will be cited for years as a reminder that estate planning is not optional, especially when children are involved. The marathon continues, just not the way anyone planned. What do you think about how this case was handled? The guardianship decisions, the final settlement, and what Tanisha ultimately walked away with? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for the real stories, told with all the facts.